My name is Alan Kamrava. I hold dual graduate degrees in medicine and business administration. I also have dual board certifications in general surgery and colon rectal surgery. I'm teaching faculty at Cedars-Sinai, got my colorectal surgery fellowship at University of Pennsylvania. I worked at Deloitte, corporate industrial real estate, international risk management, and so I've had a wide swath of exposure to the health industry as well as with a business perspective to it, having worked at Kaiser, large academic centers, and now private academic. And I think I don't need a raise of hands of who thinks health insurance is working. It should be no hands here. And that's really where this all comes from, is my really broad exposure to all of that. Eusoh decentralizes the insurance commerce chain. There is a lot of insurtech startups that are coming, but if you look at what's happening in the insurtech space, everything is coming at the insurtech as we will give you access to the same tired model, but with an easier way with your mobile phone. No one has challenged the status quo of insurance in any large way, as we've done in just about every other industry along basically Menlo Park and with the startup world. That's what we do. And what I'm trying to tell you in the story here is this is a big undertaking, and so the story I want to give you today is that this is the team that did the thing that we all want to see happen, but think is nearly impossible, and it is done. So what is the insurance model? Well, the value proposition of insurance is really two things. It's scale and diversification. When most of us think about insurance, we think of that large fund of money that is held captive by the insurers, but that fund is not actually their value prop, it's their administrative tool. They bring thousands of people together, and when something happens, the money is there, so they don't have to have people on phones calling every single one of the members to get the money. But that fund is crowdfunded. Insurance was actually the first example of large-scale crowdfunding and crowd sharing to the global markets. Now the question is, what happened and why are we there where 7% of Americans trust insurance? That's a damning statistic. And what happens is when you have a large fund where the insurer makes their revenue as a percentage of that fund, well, then they only have two options to increase their revenues. Make sure premiums go up, or make sure payouts from that fund go down, which is exactly what we're seeing happening in healthcare. It's exactly what we're seeing happening across the board, and why when you go to a physician, no one knows what the price of anything should be, because that's how premiums go up. There is no market for anyone to have any price transparency to make decisions in an educated way. And so what we did is say, if we can deal with the administration of funds now using technology, do we need to hold the money captive to provide that promise to pay? And the answer is, we don't need to hold the money captive anymore. And that changes the entire equation, because now users can come together, we can give them scale, we can give them diversification of risk, but we don't have to do a premium model to hold the funds to be able to administer movement of money when a loss happens. And so there is no fund of money, which means that our revenue is no longer attached as a percentage of a fund because that fund is zero. And so our revenue now is a subscription. You pay us a flat fee and that's it. We don't take money off a transactional basis from our users. We take money as a flat, just monthly fee, and it's set and it's transparent. And now users share money on losses when they happen in a fully transparent way. So for the first time, people know that I am spending money for this, and I spent 50 cents for this, and I spent $1.50 because of this illness, which changes the equation for what they are paying. This realigns interest completely and overall drops costs precipitously. We went through this process methodically. This is a big undertaking. It's not something you just throw at a market and see what happens. We enlisted with Willis Re, who has been fully on board with us, took our algorithms and ran over 100,000 data simulations of our model and came back and said, this works, and not only does it work, it will save tremendous money, and they wrote a white paper to boot. This thing works. Oric came on board and wrote a tremendously detailed white paper and took it to federal and state regulators and said, we can defend this legal structure. And we also went to the highest levels of FinCEN and SEC regulations in terms of movement of money in the way we're doing, which has never been done at the scale and in the process we're doing. Every piece of the puzzle in terms of how you deal with it was done. And the final piece was showing people that the model works. And so we chose a small test market that was for data only. But this is real numbers. This isn't simulated. These are real people sharing real hospitalizations and surgeries and ailments. And it's now been live 8 months, and our users spent, during that 8 months, on average, combined $99.13. An equivalent plan with Nationwide or Trupanion or one of the pet insurers would have been $640. That's an 85% savings, which is, if there isn't a stronger validation that when you start realigning interests and adding transparency throughout the entire equation and bringing community back to it so people don't treat their insurance cards like a blank check, but realize that when I spend this, it's actually coming from people I know. The abuse starts to go away and the savings become dramatic. And that's exactly the story here. This is a testimonial from one of our members. This is true life. Dog had surgery. It was $2,100, reimbursed by the membership, $1,500 and change, and that's because there's still the realities of deductible or initial out-of-pockets and member contributions on their own that are behavioral and important to have in any type of cost-sharing model. But the average cost to our members was $1.62. And this isn't a pilot model that isn't even going after scale yet. And that member was whole, affordable, and an 85% savings against the standard insurance model. This is what our dashboard looks through. And this is just a component and a small part of the transparency you see. They know dollar for dollar where they're spending their money and for what purposes. If it's being spent, why did I spend this month? What was my contribution? What was that variable expense? And what did I help? Where is my money going? If you're in a group, you know who is spending how much and what. So those very small percentage of users who are empty weights and they treat their members essentially like blank checks, this isn't necessarily the right place to be. And it helps select out that adverse selection that ultimately the majority of us end up carrying the weight of with the premiums that we see right now. So why now? Why is it that this hadn't been done before? And well, there's 5 major parts that needed to be answered for us to go from a major centralized player to bring it into a decentralized model. And the one that's in orange was the last one to finally be answered. And it was that promise to pay component. How do we move money between members at a very large scale and give a 100% guarantee to our members? And that wasn't available even with PayPal and Venmo and everything that was there till the very end of 2017. And what we're doing in terms of doing that is unique in a way that if somebody said, well, we're just going to copy you, they wouldn't even be able to replicate that just offhand. It took a tremendous amount of work and understanding in terms of what FinCEN regulations and SEC laws require for an MSB license. But now it can be done. And so that administrative burden of holding a fund of money so that you could pay things without having to call upon people to pay things is now answered. It's gone. And so we could reinvent the model. Now there's 3 ways to bring a model like this to the world. Way 1, that Theranos fake it till you make it, which I absolutely refuse to do. Pathway 2, tremendous amount of due diligence. We raised $2.1 million in our angel round, specifically for everything we did in terms of essentially what I call how I would prepare for when I did colon cancer surgeries. No surprises during a surgery. No surprises when we go to launch here. So a tremendous amount of effort and due diligence on a legal side, a financial side, and a regulatory side, and as well as an insurance side to get this live. And every piece of that puzzle was answered and solved, and then we did our pilot test market and showed it. And then the third path is what I call the Oscar Health path, and it's not to make fun of them, it's just they had a $70 million seed round, and all of a sudden you have money to do everything all at once. And not all of us are that lucky. So we took path 2. We raised a good amount of money and did all the due diligence, got the right partners in the team, and took it there. So where do we go from here? Well, this model is applicable to any short tail loss, and the software has been built to be licensed and immediately rolled out to anything that comes to us that we identify as a potential source. Everything on this slide has actually been researched ad nauseum. A couple of them we have companies that are coming to us to license our software out now that the model has been proven.